me begin. So I'm Suhas Hegde. I'm the Tech Community Programs Manager at Concordium. I'd like to thank you all for joining us in this session. Today we are joined by our CTO, Mr. Tobin Pedersen, and CMO, Benny Isenbert. Let me just briefly introduce each of them to you. All of you might already know them before, but just in case for those who don't know, Tobin is Concordium's CTO, and he's also popularly known as the father of the Pedersen commitment, which is very popular in the world of cryptography, used by many other protocols as well. He was previously the head of Cryptomatic's R&D division, and he holds an MS in computer science and a PhD in computer science, of course, from the University of Aarhus. He's been helping Concordium with the protocol, and also helping with a lot of important tech-based innovations here at Concordium. And Benny is the CMO, and Benny comes with 15 years of experience in marketing, and also is a popular name in the crypto and the blockchain world. And previously, he has experience in ad tech and online gaming industry. And he also has a very strong academic background. He has written several books, and he's a true believer in the blockchain technology. And in the past, he's worked with many popular and reputed blockchain protocols as well. We are also joined today by Ernest. Ernest is the Rust Concordium advocate.
Hi, everyone. Hi, it's very nice to be here. Thank you, Suhas, for inviting all of us and organizing this. Yeah, I'm the Rust evangelist. I'm the Rust developer evangelist, and my role is to be the bridge between Concordium and the Rust community and ecosystem. I'm the community lead for Rust London. I'm based in London, and we are the third largest Rust community globally, and we are the largest Rust community in Europe. And my role is to focus on the Devex initiative, which we'll talk more about, and to also just share how important Rust as a programming language is to Concordium, and how Concordium is going to contribute and integrate into the Rust community. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ernest, for the brief introduction about yourself. Really, it's a pleasure to have you here today. So all of you might be knowing that Concordium has been building for the several years, and we also thought that it would be nice for the community to understand what we're doing, also some of the interesting things that have been happening in the background. So we thought we'll introduce you to some of them. All of you know that Concordium is building the world's leading open source, permissionless, decentralized blockchain. It's very important to understand that though Concordium is planning to cater to the enterprise world, but we're also permissionless and decentralized. And we also have an identity ID layer at the protocol level. And Concordium also supports regulatory compliance, basically helping a lot of businesses to harness the true power of blockchain technology. So I think I'd like to invite Benny to join us and sort of open up this conversation a little bit, share your thoughts, and then eventually we'll have all the community members asking us questions too. So I urge the community members to show some patience, so that the speakers don't get disturbed while they're talking. So Benny, you're welcome to join us.
You asked for that, and thank you, Ernest, also for the intro. And let me take you to the community. I'm very proud and honored to be here and to be able to present our humble project, and for the first time to talk to you directly. And I want to apologize, to begin with, because we weren't, playing the game by the rules, by the crypto rules, I would say, from the beginning, and it wasn't purpose. So that's why we have, I would say, come to the market when it comes to community building, only once we have finalized the scientific concept that is under, obviously development for the last something like 18 to 24 months. But that's why we came late, and that's why we claim to be 3 years old, but you see us only for the last, I would say, 1 year and a half. Just to make sure that you understand a little bit who we are a little more, because we are human beings. I mean, names and nice pictures, when they are nice, are one thing, but the human condition, I would say, behind those faces and those doers is even more important from where I'm coming. So on my side, I'm coming with a double, I would say, hat. I'm a humble philosopher of sciences with a PhD from Johns Hopkins. It was almost 20 years ago, where I dealt mainly with the concept of ethics in tech, which is very important at the moment that we are talking. And I guess that nobody will say something else with all the hacks and all the cyber attacks and the fact that we became slowly but steady a kind of, digital product that is, traded on a daily basis by majors. So this is what I've been, dealing with in my academy past. But for the last more than 17 years, I'm dealing with complex marketing, approaches, and especially when it comes to science and technology projects that require somebody to translate something that is maybe written for 10 people, but to be, read by as much as possible people. Prior my time at Concordium, I was the CMO at Beam Privacy that I co-founded 3 years ago, which is, a privacy coin on top of Wimble, and you are more than invited to have a look on this project. And last but not least, I co-founded Kylie Network, and I headed the advisory board there until the TGE that happened last month. So I'm also deeply, involved in the DeFi world from another, point of perspective. But 100% of my time is for Concordium, where we try to do something that has not been done yet. It means that we are trying to play the game by the rules when we are building the bridge between, I would say, the legacy world and the new world. It means that we don't aim, to blow states, to kill banks, to change completely within one night the way the world is working. We aim, to deploy our vision when it comes to digital transformation and transition in a harmony way. Concordium in Latin is coming, from Concordia, and Concordia means harmony. It means that we have built, our technology based on the following, postulates. How we can deal with the necessary public identity of a public, open, and permissionless blockchain together with a highly private orientation. And why we are thinking about this sensible equation, it's simply because we do feel and we do understand that without a strong private environment where a user, whether it's a business or an individual, is protected and self-sovereign, if you don't have this capacity, then no business will be able to adopt your blockchain, because no business wants its competitors to know how much is transacting for which kind of product and which kind of supplier, etc., etc. But this is, I would say, the privacy side of the false. And if we speak about, the regulatory compliance side of the false, then we need to speak about our identity and our publicness. It means that we have built a very unique approach when it comes to the identification of the users. And if I need to resume it in one sentence, it could be, something like that. If you play by the rules and you are a legal and legit player on Concordium, then you are more protected than in any other blockchain at the moment. It means that we are deploying our SSI approach using ZK proofs, but also much more in order to protect our users. But if a user is not playing by the rules, and if a user is trying to fool the system, and an authority is coming, a legal authority is coming to us, then we are going to definitely redirect the authorities to one of our anonymity revokers that will obviously revoke the anonymity of one of our users, that will be obviously able to give, some, I would say, reports to his local authorities. But this is the worst case scenario. But if you think about something that is much more positive, it means that every single transaction, every single action that is done on the Concordium network is auditable. And it means for any business and any individual using in a proper way the Concordium. Sorry, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you. It means that from pure, I would say, usability point of view, all transactions, all activities on the Concordium blockchain are regulatory compliant and thus will be legal. And this is maybe the most important thing that we have done. On top of that, we have also, decided to have a transaction fee approach that is going to be in euro and quite flat. So it means that not like, with our friends at Ethereum, where you never know how much you are going to pay for a transaction. Here you will know before you proceed how much you are going to pay. And we have built also a strong network of partners that are going, to help us decentralizing, what we are doing, and to obviously onboard as much as possible, users on top of Concordium. In a contrary mode, like our, competitors, we are trying, to play obviously, the trading game because we have no choice. This is how the market is working. But we aim to, enforce as much as possible, the ecosystem traction, and we would like to see, an organic growth when it comes to our ecosystem that is a little bit, separated from the trading life of the token. So this is for Concordium. And if I need to resume, what is Concordium? Concordium is something very unique that is enabling science to meet technology and to meet business. This is what we do for the last 3 years. This is what we aim to do for the next 10 years. And we are launching, as you know, in 2 months from now, together with an MVP. It means that we are coming to market not only with our Genesis block, but we are coming to market with a product that can be used at the moment for transactions, for smart contracts, and obviously for everything related to identity.
Well, thank you so much, Benny, for a brief intro about everything. Also, I'd like to remind the audience that currently we're following the Berlin Code of Conduct, which basically means that there are certain etiquette you need to follow if you want to be a part of this voice conversation. We are committed to providing a friendly and safe and welcoming environment for everybody, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, ability, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status. So all of you are free to share your thoughts, contribute your ideas, but as long as you are mindful and respectful of the others in the group. Also, if in case you have not muted yourself, I kindly urge you all to mute yourself whenever a speaker is talking. Of course, we're going to give you all a chance to ask your questions directly. That's why we're having this. So yes. Also, Tobin, would you like to share some thoughts about yourself and also your journey in Concordium so far? How has it been, and a little bit about that?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Suhas.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining, and thanks for letting me take part in this. So I have a long background in cryptography. I did my PhD back in the late 80s, beginning of the 90s. And after a few years at university, I worked for many years at a company called Cryptographic, which is very much focused on providing cryptographic products, in particular for the financial industry. So I was a CTO at Cryptographic for many years. And of course, I also followed a little bit what was happening with the blockchain world and the technologies used, which I think is very interesting. It's very interesting to see some of the things that we were working on back in 1980s now being applied and also being further developed so that they become even better. So I had the possibility to join Concordium 1.5 years ago. And I was really attracted to it because I think it's an interesting project, in particular with the identity layer added on top of the blockchain. And maybe I'll just say a few words about that because I think it's one of the more interesting parts. So first of all, by having the identity layer, it's important that the blockchain is still open and permissionless. There's no method or means by which the Concordium is controlling or issuing these identities or controlling who can get an identity. Everybody can get an identity, which is issued by what we call an identity provider. And we will have identity providers ready as soon as we launch the mainnet. Maybe if you have participated in the testnet, you've been identified, it's been possible for you to be identified by Notabene and then also join in our mainnet. So basically what happens is one gets an identity at an identity provider, and using this identity There are some private keys associated with that. Using that identity and using some zero knowledge proofs, one can create accounts on the blockchain in such a way that the account contains a zero knowledge proof that the owner of this account has been probably identified, but the account does not reveal any information about the identity, about the actual user behind the account. Furthermore, it's possible to create several accounts, and nobody can see from the outside. If I create 3 accounts, nobody can see that these 3 accounts belong to me. So that is the level of anonymity and privacy that we are providing. Now, as Benny said, if persons misbehave or are subject to some investigation, it is possible using what we call anonymity brokers together with the identity provider to identify the persons behind the accounts. And this is done using some threshold cryptography, so that a certain number of anonymity brokers and the identity provider have to be present in order to do this identification. So it's not so that a single person or Concordium, for that sake, can identify the owners of accounts. This has to go through a process with independent anonymity brokers and the identity provider, which is also independent of Concordium. So there's no control in Concordium regarding this. We are just providing the mechanisms allowing this. So I think just to get back to the crypto background. So this is very interesting from a technology point of view, because I think it's a clever usage, and I can say it's clever because I didn't invent this. It's a clever usage of non-interactive zero knowledge proofs and encryption schemes and signature schemes that make this possible.
Right. And also, I think there has been a lot of formal verification that's been happening. If you look at other projects, Concordium has more than 30 different, scientific research papers that has been published. So I'm sure that would definitely be something very interesting for a lot of researchers and developers to have a look into. Thanks so much, Tobin, for just giving us a brief insight into everything about the approach that Concordium is taking. I think we're living in a very interesting timeline when you look at things, especially when it comes to privacy, because we've seen that lately, though we live in a ubiquitous world, there has been increasing need for surveillance. I say need for surveillance because there have been tracking apps just so that there is no spread of COVID and things like that. So technology can take away your privileges, but also make sure that we can get to use our rights and protect our privacy in times like these, also through technology. So when you look at that, Benny, what are your thoughts? You're a guy who has been involved with privacy since a very long time, and what are your thoughts in the same? I'd like to open this up for both Tobin and Benny. You guys can come in here and share your thoughts about what's happening, and also what might happen in the coming years, and how Concordium sees it. Also, the need for privacy in general.
Very good, question. Actually, what is privacy, and why do we need in 2021, privacy more than ever? But we need to begin, and this is me talking, from I would say, a humble philosophical point of view. But we need to define what is privacy, first of all, because if you speak, to the crypto world, privacy is anonymity, which is not. Anonymity, if we think about that, it's just a capacity for an entity to stay anonymous. Privacy is something completely different. So anonymity is a state, privacy is a right. It means that it's something that must be protected either by the law or by the individuals when this privacy is violated or raped on a daily basis. I don't have to explain why we are living in a world that is very much fighting privacy. I guess that there is a very good way to understand that, and this way is to have a look at this interesting documentary on Netflix that explains that if you don't pay for a product, you become a product. But more than everything else, let's begin by this postulate that surveillance state together with monopoly is the best equation for fascism. And I'm not speaking here about something that is tangible, but I'm just speaking about some philosophical concepts. We are living in a world where surveillance state is leading everything that we are doing, and you know what I'm talking about. But if you add a layer of monopoly, then you understand that we are living in a very dangerous world, and we need, as builders, as coders, as traders, as individuals, to make sure that our privacy is protected on a daily basis. And not because we have something to hide, but especially because we have nothing to hide. We want our privacy to be protected. That said, you will say, yeah, guys, Benny, there is some people that are going to use privacy to mislead the system, to steal, to do whatever things that they can do. But this is true for any single human right, if you think about that. And it's not because, at the moment that we are talking, there is maybe some people that are using, privacy-oriented networks or privacy-oriented, coins to act in a bad way that we don't need on our side to see our privacy protected. It's never has been such a big subject for humanity than to protect its privacy and its freedom, because the direct consequence of a privacy, I would say, approach is human freedom. If you are not able to say until now and to put, for example, a kind of boundary where you say to the others with a big O, you cannot enter because this is what I have decided and this space is private, then we are going for a world that is going to be much more complex and especially much more dangerous for our kids to come, or your kids if you have kids. But this is, philosophy. And now we need to understand, how you apply privacy. So you can use Monero if you think that Monero is a private coin, and there is some discussions on that. You can use Beam or Green if you think that Mimblewimble is something very good for your privacy. But if you think about that, it must come not on the application, but it must come from the network, or at least the layer one. Those primitives, and I would say those postulates, must be expressed from day one on the protocol, no matter what. If you do remember, most of the crypto space is coming from another kind of, movement that we call cypherpunk. And just to illustrate what I'm saying and to make sure that you understand from where I'm coming, I was the number 6 on the newsletter of the cypherpunk back in the 90s. So I'm swimming in the privacy and the technology world from a long time. And the promise of cypherpunk never has been, to blow the banks or to blow, the states or blah, blah, blah. It always has been, to change weapons. And it means that if until the cypherpunk movement, people were using weapons to change the world, with the cypherpunk movement together with David Chaum, you need technology and you use technology to enhance and fix the world. And this is how I see our humble role as builders, and I'm talking about the 69 people on Discord. We have a very important responsibility when it comes, to building a more private world, and technology is helping for that, where people will be able to say this is public and this is private, when only people will decide that and not anybody else. So it is a privacy-oriented landscape that we are building together with a self-sovereign approach, means that the user is the king or the queen or both. And when the authority are playing their roles of regulating what is going on in what we call micro society, which is going to be governed by what we built, meaning a digital social contract that will, rule the governance between the people and the actors on the network. But that said, again, those are ideas with very, I would say, humble technical, approaches. I think that, Torben, if you could maybe express the vision behind our ZK-proof approach, that is one of the best expression of our design, it would be wonderful.
Yeah, or maybe I just want to start at another place, Benny.
With pleasure.
I think an important prerequisite for privacy is to have transparency. So it should be clear to people people doing things on the internet, doing things with their apps on their mobile, what kind of information is stored about them and what is not stored. And I think we all have experienced that it's very difficult really to know what kind of information we risk leaking about ourselves when we act on the internet or when we are using these apps. And one of the goals of, we've also seen this on blockchains, where some blockchains say, well, you can be anonymous on this blockchain, but in the end it is actually possible to trace the person because actions can be linked. So one of the things that we want to achieve with the zero knowledge proofs that we have in Concordium is to have a very clear description and be very transparent about what is it, which level of anonymity or privacy are we offering. And that is the level that I described before. So you can create accounts that cannot be linked to each other and that cannot be linked to your identity. So that is something we guarantee in our software, in our protocols. On the other hand, we also say very clearly that if you misbehave, authorities can collect a certain number of authorities, and it's very clear which authorities they have to collect in order to trace your actions on our blockchain. So I think this transparency and very clear rules is an important part of it.
Right. I think those are definitely some of the most important things that we all know, but then we tend to forget. Thanks so much for that, Tobin. Unless you want to add something, I can continue.
Please go ahead, Suresh.
Okay, thank you. So I'm also going to speak a little bit about Concordium's Devex initiative in a bit, which Ernest is going to brief us about, and make sure, I'll leave that to the end. So now I think we'll make this conversation a little more interesting. We'll open it up to the community. So if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and, ask the team now. And then eventually in the end, we'll save some time for to speak about the Devex initiative. So yes, here's your time, guys. You can open up for questions.
So, hello everyone. If it's okay, I would like to start with the first question.
Sure.
I would like to ask how, I guess it's a question which is interested by most of the people, but it's a general question about listing on a exchange. I guess there's of course something ongoing, but do you can give any hints or information about, is it gonna be a tier, let's say the top 5 exchanges, or is there anything planned or is still in planning? That's my first question. And additional to that, I would also like to know regarding the public sale, which is upcoming. Do you thinking about using CoinList, or is it still not clear which kind of CX you wanna use? That are my 2 questions. Thank you.
Can I answer if you don't mind, Suas?
Sure, Benny, yes.
So when it comes to listing and when it comes to everything related, to trading the GTU, as you know, from a pure regulatory point of view, we are not supposed to speak about that. And since we are coming from the mainstream and the crypto world, and this is not our first project, we know what are the consequences if we violate this law, because it's a law. It's not, I'm going to say that it's not, a suggestion. It's simply a law that you cannot impact the price by, explaining people where you are going to list, etc. That said, it wouldn't be fair if we don't speak a little bit about that and give you at least a guarantee that we know what we are doing in this field. I would give you one type of answer. I mean, you need to look on my former project, for example, like Beam, and to look where it is listed to understand what could be, the strategy. Concordium is my 5th project that I'm going to list ever in my life.
Okay.
And unfortunately, because I'm not a big fan of trading, Unfortunately, I know where to list and what we could expect in order, to list. So the process is on. Where and when, my dear friends, you are going to be patient. I have no other choice. Just also to protect you guys on this kind of things. When it comes to the private placement, I must admit that we still are not convinced by the options that we have on the table. We definitely are looking, at CoinList, not because of this efficiency or whatsoever, because of its marketing impact. But nothing is done yet. We are discussing with all the players and we are looking for the best solution, not for the investors that are coming, but for the current investors. Because we don't want, the people that have trusted us from day one until today to be hurt, but to anything that we are going to do on the matter. So we are going to come to you guys very soon with some news, and we are going to share ideas and to take decisions in a collective way. It's not that we are going to impose you guys whatever we want to do on this field. It does have a huge impact on you. I mean, I'm speaking about the buyers among you guys. So we need to have not only your support, but also your approval and your consensus on this.
Right. And also, I think if one understands, a tier one blockchain like Concordium, which is also a layer one, which means in the future, there will be various different innovations that can be built on top of Concordium. When the technology stack is as such, I would not really be worried about, whether Concordium is going to get listed on a certain exchange or not. I'd rather look at the, developments that are happening on the platform. And that in turn will assure you of, top tier exchanges, in fact, to list us. So I think that definitely would not be something I'd be worried about. And regarding the private sale, we are very oversubscribed. Sorry, Benny. Yes, please go on.
No, just to make sure that we understand each other, our token is a native token. It's not an ERC20 token. So it's not going to be listed on Uniswap. And we are not playing the retail DeFi game.
Yeah. So maybe someday, we'll have a lot of innovations happening in the Concordium ecosystem itself. Maybe someone's going to build a Uniswap on top of Concordium itself. A lot of possibilities out there. Hope those answers, your question, Ali. If anyone else is having any questions, you can, now's the time to ask us.
Hey, I have questions. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Hey, Amrik.
Yeah.
Nice
Hi,
to see
how are
you.
you? Okay, perfect. So first of all, thank you very much for valuable conversations. I have two questions. First one is related with the mainnet plans. What are you thinking on how we will be on the mainnet? And then second question is, I would like to extend Ali questions a little bit. So we faced ban in the US for the privacy coins in the past, and we know that shielded transfers is similar to that. And do you think that there will be a listing in the US based on the, if you're thinking about the shielded transfer, and what's your plan for this based on the generally in the US exchanges?
Answer the second question, and then I'm going to answer the first one. So you're totally right. There is a ban it's not a global ban. It's a recommendation and a ban for specific, privacy coins that are not private. They are anonymous. So this is very important for us to understand the concept of privacy compared to the concept of anonymity. We are a privacy network, but our coin is not a privacy coin. It's exactly the contrary, because if you think about that, we have an identity object that is attached to each and single transaction. So we are playing here something that is much more, aligned with the regulation in the US than any other, I would say, cryptocurrency there. That's why, by the way, we are seen by the Swiss authorities and more by the Japanese authorities as one of the most ready blockchain for regulation. You know that Concordium is the sole and the first member of the FinTech Association of Japan that is dealing with blockchain, and it means a lot. So we don't fear to be banned by the US, and we are also discussing in a certain level stuff with the US authorities via several links that we have. And we aim at one point when everything will be set to list on a US exchange, and I think that we are speaking about the same one. With who we have also some very deep relationships based on the members that we have in our team. just to make sure that you understand, if we speak about Coinbase, the former chairman of Coinbase is one of the former partners of our founder. So this is the level of relationship that we have with Coinbase, for example, or with Kraken, we have also very good, relationships. So we don't want to list at first on those exchanges because it means that we need to make sure that everything will be set in a proper way. But we will eventually, be on an exchange in the US without naming it, in a very proper way. When it comes to mainnet, mainnet is for the second week of June, something like that. Unless we're going to have a big surprise, but we are almost ready, for mainnet when it comes to both the Genesis block and both the MVP. For mainnet, you are going to be able, obviously, to transact on mainnet. It means that we are leading a site testnet that will stay alive, by the way, for all our tests in the future in front of our community of testers. So it means that before we move to mainnet, a feature of a user benefit, we are going to call our testers community to test it on testnet, and there will be a lot of rewards for that. And then we will move it, to mainnet. But in general, mainnet will comport two things: the Genesis block, and obviously the MVP, with which you will be able to transact both publicly and shieldedly, I would say. We will be able, to use our smart contract layer, and our smart contract is based on Rust together with WebAssembly, and we are going to discuss that in a few minutes, I would say. And you are going, obviously, to play around and to use our identity layer to create and deploy identity objects that are going to be enabling you to use the system in a very protected way, but also very public.
Right. Thanks so much, Benny. Hope that answered your question, Emre.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I know that we have a limited amount of time, so without wasting any time further, I'd also like to mention about the Devex initiative before we open up questions once again. So Ernest, it would be nice to have you here. Tell us a little bit about the Devex initiative. What is the purpose behind it, and also, why the Rust ecosystem is so important to Concordium?
Hi, everyone. Again, thank you for having me here. This is a really exciting time to be part of this project. So the Devex initiative is a separate effort by Concordium to become part of the Rust ecosystem. So Rust as a programming language is becoming one of the most important tools, not just for blockchain, but across a bunch of different domains. But particularly in blockchain, I would say the new generation of projects that are really realizing a lot of the promise that was started by projects like Ethereum are using Rust both at a protocol layer and, interestingly enough, at a smart contract layer. So I'm talking about projects like Polkadot, Near, Nervos, and of course Concordium. And I was blown away by what Concordium had when I first discovered the project. Knowing Benny personally and seeing the project in my periphery, but I wasn't really paying much attention. It wasn't until I had a very specific conversation with Benny about, the state of the communication between the blockchain bubble, that I like to call it, and the wider Rust ecosystem, that we really realized that a lot of projects aren't really doing it right. They're not engaging with the most important community that they need to engage with, which is developers, in a way that makes sense, in a way that also is right in many ways, in a way that's actually morally right. A lot of projects, they talk about, hey, we've got the best tooling, we've got the best platform. Developers are going to flock over and they're going to build all of these amazing things. But I can tell you for a fact, coming from outside of the blockchain bubble and looking in, a lot of Rust developers, a lot of people in the ecosystem, again, that's not a guarantee. You have to go into these developer communities and embed yourselves in there and become part of it and contribute to these developer ecosystems, these different programming language community systems as a part of them. If you really want them to engage, if you really want developers, if you really want people who want to come and build on your platform to understand what you have as a proposition, then you have to be a part of who they are. And that's where, from me coming from as a software developer in the Rust ecosystem, seeing and having some understanding of what goes on in blockchain, we came up with this initiative to be a part of Rust. So it's not like, hey, again, maybe like Ethereum, they had to do that because Solidity is a language purpose-built for Ethereum. You can't use Solidity like anywhere else, really, apart from the Ethereum bubble. But something like Rust, there's so many different things that you can do with it. And if you really want to have the attention of developers, you have to go to where they are because they can do something else. They can go and do embedded stuff. They can go and do whatever else. So my mission and my cause is to be the bridge that Concordium and Rust come together on. Having experience again of the blockchain bubble and also being embedded in the Rust ecosystem, it makes sense for me because seeing what Concordium already has, seeing what Concordium has already done, going through the different test nets, I was like, man, how come no one knows about this? Like, this is really cool stuff. And there is a lot that Concordium has to offer the wider Rust ecosystem. And through a principle of reciprocity, through a principle of, it's not about give and take. It's not about you do this for me and I do this for you, but through the process of being cooperative in an open source way with the Rust community, that's when it will naturally happen that developers will come and build on Concordium, just because it's already a part of the wider community anyway. And I think it would be great for Benny to talk more about what we discussed and what he formalized as, the principle of reciprocity in an open source way before taking some more questions.
Be short on this because, I'm going to be short on that because I can speak about that for hours.
Yeah.
I'm preparing a little book, by the way, that I'm going to release on GitHub, open source, obviously, with no rights. It's called The Principle of Reciprocity in Technology. Reciprocity, if we speak from a pure capitalistic point of view, it's in order to get something, you need to give something first. This is not reciprocity. This is capitalism. And we don't speak about, economics theory. By the principle of reciprocity, we mean something completely different. We mean that in order to get a benefit, an individual is invited to contribute to the collective. And he is getting, or she is getting, or they are getting an equal distribution of wealth that is creating a collective way from the collective. That it means that if we speak about the technology and what we are doing, Concordium is not going to contribute to the blockchain part of the Rust ecosystem that is related to us and us only. We are going to be seen as an ad hoc contributor to the Rust ecosystem agnostically, with no, I would say, specific orientation when it comes to our benefit. It is very clear on our side in the organization that if the Rust ecosystem is strong, Concordium will be strong among all the others. And we believe very much that in order to succeed, you need to strengthen the collective. And as an individual, in this term, as a project, we will very much benefit from the collective work. Because in the end of the road, if you want to speak about the mainstream adoption of our technology and philosophy, because behind the blockchain, there is a huge philosophical, approach, we need to create what we call a collective intelligence that is trying to fix most of the issues now, but that is fairly and socially just distributed among all the participants of an ecosystem. This is our vision when it comes to reciprocity. So just to recap, we will give as much as possible to the collective, meaning the Rust ecosystem. We are not going to expect to get anything back, but if the Rust ecosystem is strong, rich, populated, Concordium will be a big success. And this is how we have built our DevRel, our developers relationship from day one.
Right. Principle of reciprocity. I think that's a very interesting concept, which the community is going to learn a lot about in the coming days. Thanks so much for that, Benny and Ernest. Now, once again, I know that we have a limited amount of time. I've been receiving a few DMs saying so little time and interesting things to talk about. I can assure you that we will be having a lot more different AMAs for the run up to the mainnet. So you can expect a lot of such conversations happening. I know that we live in very strange times. There is the pandemic that is gripping the whole world, but then also it's it also makes the world a smaller place by bringing us together in the same room and trying to share our thoughts in the most vocal way, which is things like voice. We'll also have such AMAs on Clubhouse and various different platforms like Discord Voice and on Reddit and things like that. So get all your friends, join us whenever. And we will be having more members of the team, our chief architect and things like that, so that we can discuss a lot more about Concordium's underlying architecture and various other things. Also, I'd like to ask you guys to, again, open up your mics and ask any questions if you have, so that we can take a few more questions before concluding this session.
Yeah, it's cool to ask. I keep thinking about this. It's coming to mind about jurisdictions who themselves don't play against the rules. So, like, how do, making, because some governments may not be able to be trusted with certain authority, if you know what I'm trying to say.
I'm not going to understand the question. So you are asking a question in regards to the type of the authority that is going to come to us and ask, to revoke anonymity. If this is the question, I can assure you that both North Korea, Venezuela, Iran, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, etc., they are not going, to collaborate with us. It's not possible. We believe very much in democracy, real democracy, not what you can see today. We believe very much in freedom. We are doing that because we believe that we have a specific mission to fix a little bit the way things are done on our humble level. So working together with the North Korean, for example, regime, not under my watch.
Thank you.
And maybe I could just add that Concordium as such does not have any keys or anything that we can give to anyone to help this. All this is really on independent parties.
All right. Definitely an interesting question, and I guess some of the questions in your mind have been answered. If you guys have any other questions, you can comment again. Just open up your mics and feel free.
I have a question. Is it when the mainnet launches, is there any partners or usage at the start, or will it grow from there?
Double question. Thank you for asking that. Since we have stated that we want an organic growth and an organic growth only, you can definitely, imagine that we are going to come maybe not on the first week or the 2 weeks after mainnet, because we need to stabilize and secure the network as much as possible. But before the end of, I would say, Q3 of this year, in 1Q after our launch, you're going to see the first applications that are going to be running on top of Concordium, or at least the first, I would say, POCs and prototypes. That said, as you know, we have also a strong JV and partnership with one of the biggest car manufacturers in China, mainland. I'm speaking about Geely Cars, which are the owners of Volvo, and we have a deal, and we have built a company together in China to deploy our technology on both sides of the Great Firewall. It means, and I hope that you know that Geely is maybe one of the, Geely might be building the Apple car. Apple is building a car, and Geely is one of the companies that is going to take care of that, apparently. And it means that a part of our technology could be found in the Apple car in the future. But more than everything else, until the end of the year, we are going to make sure that our chain is not used only by traders, for which we have a lot of respect, but we didn't build this blockchain for only trading. We have built this blockchain for the business world, so you are going to see quite a lot of names that you know already deploying a PLC on top of Concordium and getting as much as possible help from both the commercial and the tech team at Concordium.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm from China. I saw the news from Wall Street Journal. It says Concordium and Geely set up a joint venture, and Geely owns 80% of the share, and the Concordium project office owns the 20% of the share. May I ask, that means this project itself is belong to Geely, and Geely will use the blockchain technology into the car production, or it will be widely used for other projects too, for example, banking or supply chain or whatever, hospital, based on what the paper says. I just feel a little bit confused because I'm not very technical in the crypto. So I just want to ask this.
Very good. And this is also a very valuable question. So the deal that we have with Geely is not replacing what we are doing. So Geely is not the owner of what we are doing. What we have done with Geely is that we have created another company that will use our technology behind the Great Firewall. It means that they are going to adapt together with us, and we bring only technology. We are not going to deal, we as Concordium, with the business side in China. We are just providing the technology, and Geely is going to use it together with us. Obviously, we are going to discuss that in all the areas where Geely is active. So it begins by the car, but it begins also by the health industry. Geely is very active in China in this, and Geely also has supporting 9 universities. So we are on our side thinking maybe about having Geely doing a little use case to identify a diploma from its universities, but mainly it's going to be the Geely chain that is based on the Concordium blockchain. So it's not going to be a Concordium blockchain behind the Great Firewall operated by us. It's going to be operated by Geely with our technology. I don't know if it answers your question.
Thank you for answering, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
You are more than welcome.
Yeah, white labeling is another very interesting feature that Concordium provides, which means that you might have a blockchain and the underlying technology might be Concordium's, but you can have a white label of your own business or enterprise. That really is a big game changer because, we're speaking about a public blockchain like Concordium. And currently enterprises, when people speak about enterprises, they think about, distributed ledger technology. So Concordium is a permissionless, decentralized, public blockchain. So that's a big game changer. So just like Geely, maybe we'll have many other businesses coming and, wanting to build on top of Concordium, use Concordium's consensus layer and things like that. Definitely an interesting time to be in the blockchain space, and especially for the enterprise world.
Cool. I've got one more question about jurisdiction I've recently come to know about, called the Common Law Court. So would they be able to potentially, thinking, wouldn't that make a great interface layer between the legal world and the lawful world?
In your question on my side, at least, can you maybe repeat? Sorry for that.
So the commonlawcourt.com is a jurisdiction. So like Magna Carta back in the day, hundreds of years ago, people wanted their freedom. But since the corporations and all, from statutes and maritime law coming on shore and all this, when in 2018 it got legally recognised. Well, I suppose it's legal recognition because you're not consenting to it. But anyway, it happened because I learned about these Indians that got legal recognition because they didn't surrender. Anyway, in 2018, this got recognised, and it's actually a jurisdiction, as in people can drop out and say, I don't want to consent in certain things. So you like claim yourself as a living man or woman, because the birth certificate that I think most people will sign up to this with, that declares their corporation, which it means dead speak. And when we're born, a corporation is made. So like, in a sense, this is took hundreds of years, and it's quite a landmark. I think so a bit, I think it's the biggest thing since Bitcoin. And I think the two worlds, the decentralized world and this jurisdiction, I'm quite excited and wonder about how this is going to go out into the future. And then, Concordium being, a protocol, that they can use. And then obviously people who decide not to play the game can still, because there's common law companies as well. So you can have a different type of company and things like that. It's going to be a future proof of life, and then eventually there's like passports they're going to have. So like I'm thinking, because I've signed for this because I don't agree with the government with COVID or whatnot, and so yeah, I'd like to kind of use Concordium in my living self rather than my representing my corporation.
That's very interesting. I mean, by the fact that we have decided to implement an identification layer on top of our protocol to be legally transparent, but also 100% privacy centric, I think that it does answer your question or your comment. It's not a question, it's your comment. So yes, our technology and the future dApps and use cases that are going to run on top of Concordium will be much more also oriented in an individual way than maybe the other chains. By definition, if you think about that, Concordium with its identity layer is maybe the best technology to build a COVID passport, or what you said, a proof of life. I mean, for a philosopher like me, speaking of proof of life, it's a little bit complex, but dealing with these kind of things where the user is empowered, where the user is self-sovereign, makes a lot of sense. And we're inviting both the community but also the use cases of this world to come to us when it's going to be open, obviously, and to request a grant to deploy anything that will make sense in this field, because this is exactly one of the direct consequences of what we are trying to build for the last 3 years. It's to be used not only by the enterprise, but also by the individuals that are looking to be more private in a regulatory compliant way.
Brilliant. So is this something I could be involved with to help kind of bridge between you and the Common Law Court? And if I just get a bit more confident and more mission goal orientated?
With a lot of pleasure, and you are more than invited, to ping me directly on Telegram or to send me an email, and I will jump on a call with my partners in crime if you want.
Grateful, thank you.
More than welcome.
Thank you, John and Benny. That was definitely something new that I learned, and sounds very interesting. I'd like to follow that in the future as well. I know that we are sort of running out of time, but is that okay if we keep this channel going for just a few more minutes, just to take in a few more questions before we conclude? So guys, feel free to ask a few more questions before we can conclude.
This is Ben. To the community?
Yes.
To us? Okay. Can you write now on the group, what are you bullish at when it comes to Concordium? It's very important for us to understand what you guys, the first circle of the supporters of the project, do like at Concordium, and what we could, maybe enforce and take to the next level. So my question is more, kind of an open debate, a question on the group. If you could let us know what you really like at Concordium, and let's put aside what you dislike. It's going to be maybe the subject of the next AMA. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank some of our community leaders, right from Joha to Emmanuel, and of course Pablo, and then Omer. You guys are doing a great job. Kelvin, a lot of supporters, Michael, Thanks so much for making Concordium what it is today. You guys are doing a brilliant job with helping our community get the right kind of information and also making sure that they understand what Concordium is all about. It means a lot to us. And also, if you have any suggestions regarding any platforms that you'd like to see these kind of AMAs on, or if you think that there's room for any improvement, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll try to incorporate them as much as possible. This session was mainly the first session, and also in a way trying to bring some sort of transparency and a less barrier to entry when it comes to sort of building a bridge between the community and the team. And we're going to have a lot more of this in the future. Any more questions just before we close this room? It would be great if we can quickly ask them.
I'm good, thank you. To ask a question, I'm all good. Yeah, this has been great. Thank you.
So we can wrap up here, Suhas. Just one sentence on my side. I would like to also thank Suhas, Maria, and Ernest for this AMA, and especially also my dear also partner in crime, Torben. Without him, we couldn't, dream of bringing what we are trying to bring in out to the market. It was an amazing AMA for me. Thank you for asking questions, because as you know, there is no stupid question, but only stupid answers. And you helped me to bring I hope, as smart as possible answers to your questions. So thank you for the opportunity and for the challenge.
Thanks so much, Benny. Thanks to the whole team for joining. I think that we will be concluding this unless I think Crypto Freshman has something to say. Okay, I guess not. So yeah, thank you so much. So we will be concluding this session. The next session is going to be on Friday. We might have it here on one of the platforms of Concordium itself, or we might, choose one of the groups that we might be invited to, and we might speak there. So watch out for our announcements. It's generally going to be pinned on the group so that you know where to go and where to find us. Generally, we'll have such kind of AMAs. We plan to have 3 AMAs. Let's see what happens. If not an AMA, at least an interview, so that you can learn a lot more about Concordium. And it's going to be a lot more interactive. Probably some of the days, maybe like one of the week, someday on Friday, we can just open up a group like this so that the community members can chat with each other, talk to each other, and share your thoughts and ideas. Maybe that's another great way to do it. So thank you all for joining. We will be closing this. Ernest, do you have anything to add? Are we good to conclude this session?
Yeah, no, this was really good. Really good. Thank you for having me here. And if anyone has any more questions about the Devex initiative, there's going to be specific AMAs about that. And also there's going to be more shared about what's coming with that. There's going to be some really exciting workshops and so many different things, so many different events. Look out for Concordium speaking at a lot of different Rust meetups and conferences coming up soon. And you're going to be seeing a lot more of Rust and Concordium together out there in the world. So very excited for what's to come, and looking forward to more of these, and looking forward to speaking to you more.
Thank you, Ernest. So I think that's about it for today. We will also have a recorded session of this whole 1 hour session that we just did. And if any of you have an issue with your voice being in the recorded session, which will be on our YouTube channel, please let us know. And we'll try to, white out your voice in case you don't want to be on the video. So thank you so much. Going to be concluding this section and closing this room. Thank you.